during some turbulent days as well. Lalit Ambardar is a Kashmiri Pandit activist. He's a political analyst also joining us. Urmila Raina is a special guest this evening. She's the daughter of Justice Neelkant Ganju. Justice Neelkant Ganju was a prominent Kashmiri Pandit and Sessions Court judge in Srinagar. He was assassinated by terrorists on 4th November 1989. He had also ordered the death sentence of Maqbool Bhat, so the terrorists wanted to take revenge of that. But that assassination was one of the first flashpoints when it came to realizing that Kashmiri Pandits are going to be targeted. Also, another special guest this evening is Manoj Raghuvanshi, senior journalist, but there's a reason for him to be on this show. Manoj Raghuvanshi's news coverage and interviews of 1990 through Newstrack, which is India Today archives, have been mentioned in the charge sheet by the State Investigation Agency. So that's going to be used as evidence for the case here on and several other cases as well. Also joining me, Khushbu Mattu. She's a journalist, author, painter. She's from the Kashmiri Pandit community. She's daughter, granddaughter, you call it, of the survivors of those who had to flee in the night with two young daughters. Her parents, I know, had to flee with the two young daughters in tow, all that and more. So I want to first begin with you, Urmila Raina ji. When you heard of this case of Sarla Bhat, what was your thought first? That do you believe something can come about 36 years later? Do you have hope for your father also as well in that case?
Of course, we have very much hope that the case should be reopened and justice should be prevailed to my father.
Do you think that 40 years later something can be done?
It's a long time. Let us hope. We are hoping that some justice should be prevailed and government will take some.
Does it reignite hope for you, Urmila ji?
Yes, of course. Justice should be prevailed to our father.
I'll return to you, ma'am, in just a short while. I'm also joined by SP Vaid as the former DGP Jammu Kashmir. Do you think, because that's what many are asking, 36 years on, when we talk about a case like this, do you think it's imperative that the government pushes other cases as well? And how difficult it is for investigators to really open a case and be able to reach a watertight conclusion after almost 40 years?
Namaskar to you and to the viewers and my co-panelists, esteemed co-panelists. See, there is absolutely no denying of the fact that the Kashmiri Pandit community deserves justice. And the tragic part is the Honorable Supreme Court of India, the highest court of this country, refused to open these cases in spite of, I think, 2 or 3 petitions by Kashmiri Pandit community. And particularly in the backdrop of opening of anti-Sikh riot cases in Delhi, which happened in 84. And these are the cases which happened in 1989, 1991. That was one point I wanted to make. But then, as far as your question is concerned, it is definitely very, very difficult because at least 6 years is a very, very long time, and you lose all precious evidence. See, even in this particular case, out of 5 main accused, 3 are already dead. 1 is absconding to Pakistan, or maybe they're alive there, we don't know. Only Yasin Malik is in custody. So the problem of witnesses is there, but I think credit must be SIA of J&K police has done what actually even Supreme Court of India refused to do. And I think all such important cases must be reopened. And all these cases, wherever whatever little evidence can be at this late stage can be collected, I think we must ensure a SIT is constituted by the police department, and let's go against all these cases, because the cases like Sarla Bhat were actually responsible for exodus of Kashmiri Pandits. It created fear in the minds of every Kashmiri Pandit living in Kashmir Valley at that time.
That's a good point, sir, that you're mentioning. Yes, go ahead, sir. Finish your point, sir.
Yeah. just one point. If you recall, even the genocide of Jews, which happened in the later part of 1940, the justice, cutting them justice against people of Hitler took almost about 2 decades. So I think even
It's
at
never
this
too
stage,
late.
I would
It's
say,
never too
though
late.
it is 30.
And what you're mentioning is important. I want to
We
add here
must
to the
make it.
viewer, Sarla Bhat was branded as an informer after her death, and that was basically to justify that she deserved to be killed, and that is when what led to a certain fear for the displacement that eventually happened. And the SI charge sheet categorically mentions that the informer tag was wrong, and that it was false and was deliberately a systematic campaign by JKLF. I'm showing you this visual on a screen for a reason. Manoj Raghuvanshi, I come to you now. When you were interviewing Bitta Karate, when you were on the ground in Kashmir to assess the mob violence or to really see what was happening from your eyes, which is now 30, 40 years later being used as evidence by investigators, what was your first sense, as a journalist on the ground, a beautiful paradise Kashmir, but you saw a very different side?
We were the first ones in the world to report that terrorism will erupt in Kashmir. The story was done in June 1989. And 5 months later, it actually erupted with the killing of Rubaiyya Saeed. The situation in the valley, in Srinagar and even other parts of the valley, was so terrifying that mobs in downtown Srinagar used to yell, Indian dogs, go back. Bharat ke aiwanon ko aag laga do, aag laga do. And they actually started killing, kidnapping and killing early next year from January 1990. So the reason why the Kashmiri Pandits fled was extreme panic, terror in the valley.
So quick question then, how do you feel when you realize that even 40 years later almost, the investigators are using your news coverage and that of your other team members also who were there in Kashmir to be able to bring justice to a Kashmiri Pandit nurse and her family?
There is great hope. SIA is doing a wonderful job. And there is great hope that with this beginning, we will see more justice coming the way of Kashmiri Pandits.
Appreciate that, sir, showing your humility as well, because as a journalist, when your footage or your work is being used or at least being quoted by investigators 40 years later, imagine the impact it truly has and how precious that footage is. And it's thankfully with India Today archive. Lalit Ambadar, let's get straight to the point. In these 5 accused who've been mentioned, 3 are deceased. 1 is in Tihar jail, that's the mastermind Yasin Malik, and 1, Khurshid Chalku, is in Pakistan-occupied Jammu Kashmir. Do you think with instances like this, as much as it's taken a painstaking effort by the investigators, does this really serve a purpose? Do you think there is hope here?
See, it's too little and coming in installments and coming a bit late. But nevertheless, we welcome it. But this is not the way you pursue the cases of genocide. You know, I just want to remind your audiences, this Sarla Bhat, she wasn't just raped and murdered. Her naked body was branded with cigarette butts and with marking of JKLF on her naked body, which before it was thrown onto the street. This is the kind of barbarity that Kashmiri Hindus were subjected to. You talk of Hamas. What Hamas did in October 7 in Israel. And we saw the imprint of that in Pahalgam massacre last year. We Kashmiri Hindus suffered even worse 4 years ago, right in the backyard of India's own backyard. Can you imagine? I just want to recall another case. Mother and daughter duo in Kralkhor, in the heart of Srinagar. They were both raped and shot in vagina. And this is what has been said by then police officers who rose to become the IG, I think, Mr. Sahai. And my state is yet to formally acknowledge what Kashmiri Hindus suffered was genocide. Incidentally, Yasin Malik was charged.
How do they
by the
acknowledge
government.
then? Lalit Ambardar, you say fail to acknowledge. How does one acknowledge it? They would say they are opening the cases, they are preparing for rehabilitation. What else?
There's a difference between pursuing individual cases of rape. Like it's just like any other crime happening anywhere in the country. This is just a genocide perpetuated when the whole of Hindu communities was cleansed off from their roots from the Kashmir. It's genocide. And don't forget, one of the charges against Yasin Malik was by this government only, that this man was responsible for founding the Kashmir Jihad and also responsible for genocide of Kashmiri Hindus. This government has said it many a time, but formally they are yet to acknowledge, because India is a signatory to International Convention on Genocide. Once they formally acknowledge that it was genocide, then they'll have to set up a tribunal, not only investigate individual cases. Can you imagine? These are known cases. But I can assure you, government of India, they quote about 290 people were killed. This was one of the earlier reportings in Parliament of India. This is a figure that's thrown out of face when we talk about genocide. But our activists, they have been able to collect information about nearly 2,000 people killed. Not ordinarily killed. Justice Ganju. Just let me again remind your audiences. The
Targeted
case of
violence.
Maqbul Bhat. All the people involved in the case were Muslims. They were the judge was only the one judge was Hindu. That was Justice Ganju. Public prosecutor, defense advocate, all witnesses.
The targeted violence is for all to see, and I'm glad that at least even 40 years later, that denial narrative has failed in how. Khushbu Mattu, I bring you in here. There's a reason that Urmila Raina ji is there. Someone who's been a daughter, who's seen it from her own eyes. And Khushbu Mattu, tell me about your story. When you hear of instances like this, we may not have really lived at that point in our consciousness, so to say, to remember what happened. But when we look back now, when we look at our future, do you think such cases ignite any hope at all? And what can be done in the next few years to ensure that Kashmiri Pandits get justice?
Thank you so much, Pooja, for having me on the esteemed panel. I want to, first of all, congratulate the efforts of J&K police here. And I really want to salute Manoj Raghuvanshi ji, whose documentation has really helped at this point. And I just want to pause and say, this shows us the integrity and responsibility of journalists to correctly document feature is how important, how even after 40 years, it can be taken out and validated and used in these circumstances. For me, for a generation that was born in 89 or 90, the cusp of it, we were too young to remember the violence ourselves. But we are old enough to see pictures or to grow up in the neo-poverty, the aftermath, the distorted vision that we have, the museum of memory that we have is full of blood. It's full of murky, muddy blood, Pooja, as we talk sometimes, So the closure, accurate closure is needed more than anything for a generation to move on, I don't think my generation wants to inherit just trauma, we want to inherit the truth. And we want every victim of terrorism to be remembered with honesty, irrespective of, politics of the region or religion. A mature democracy, just like it is now, must be able to acknowledge painful chapters without reducing it just to talking points on TV. So, we have to pass on history to our kids as well, Pooja, to yours, to mine, to all of us here. So it should be done accurately, compassionately, and fearlessly. Because forgetting, injustice is not going to bring closure to anyone. And at last, I really want to see that, justice is not really about reopening old wounds. It is about acknowledging that the wounds never really closed. And maybe it is
acknowledging and to at least ensure that punishment reaches to the ones who've done the community members
closure,
wrong.
Like I said, the dark chapter needs to end. And for the chapter
Urmila Raina ji, can you tell us, for our viewers, and it pains me to take you back there 35 years ago, but still, if I may, when you first heard about your father's assassination, there was also an attack earlier as well, after the judgment had given. Can you tell us about the days when you first heard? Where were you? How old were you? What was the situation like at home?
I was at my home. It was a very sad and painful situation when I heard about my father's killing. he was coming out of court and going to the bank, and there in the Hari Singh High Street, he was shot. And it is a very painful situation. And by telling this, we get emotional. And I don't know whether he will get this justice or not. He has given justice to so many people, but we are all waiting for his justice to prevail.
How were days after that, Urmila ji? Did you have to immediately leave? Were you there in Kashmir? How did your mother deal with it? What is it like for a family when such a high-profile assassination takes
It
place?
was a very bad situation at that time. We had to leave within a month. We all left from that place because everyone we were getting uh, threats from all the sides. So we had to leave. Last week of November, every one of us was out of Kashmir.
So even before 1990, even before the official
There
exodus
were
started,
many attacks were done. But my father was such a great man. He was very courageous and very intelligent, very brave. He told nothing will happen to me. Nobody will do any harm to myself. But one day it was very painful situation.
how were days for you and the family after you have to go to Jammu and Delhi? Did the government administration ever reach out to you for any help,
No,
assistance?
never.
Never in
We
40
had to
years,
manage
ma'am.
of our own. We had to manage of our own. My brothers, sisters, everyone left the place. And we had to figure ourselves what to do, where to go and where to live. And here also we had a very bad and tough time. But everyone was educated, so everyone tried to settle down by himself.
So everything done by yourself, like a true Kashmiri
Yes,
Pandit. Education was the focus.
no government, no one came to help us.
Ma'am, from a top judge's family to struggle for the next 40 years?
What?
To come from a judge's family, they say that you must have had your facilities, a big house in Srinagar, and then to be able to struggle for the next few decades.
We had to struggle here, but what was there was no alternative. We had to.
What do you expect from the...
Everything was left there. We had no money, no place, nothing of any sort. But we just managed. It was a
Ma'am,
tough
what
situation.
happened to your house and everything left behind?
It was burnt. It was burnt there.
What hope do you have from the government, ma'am?
We want justice, but I don't think justice will prevail. It is long back, long time, 36 years past. But still, if justice will be prevailed, it is good.
Thank you for
And
speaking, ma'am. Yes.
only hope. We have hope against hope.
Kashmiri Pandits clinging on to hope after 36 years. Just listen to her. That's what truly tells you what the community has suffered in silence of so many years. Manoj Raghuvanshi, had it not been, at least for your work, a little bit to add on to the credit, the struggles have just been in silence. What was the journalist fraternity also doing, I wonder, for almost 4 decades to not bring this out in public?
Exactly. Not only that, not only the journalists, but also politicians and filmmakers of Bollywood, except for Vivek Agnihotri, who did Kashmir Files, no one spoke of this massive genocide and exodus of the entire Kashmiri Pandits from the valley. the journalists were also conspiring in this silence.
Lalit Ambardar, do you agree with it? Have you been in situations where you felt that you were not being heard?
I don't know how to say thanks to Mr. Raghuvanshi, who have been saying it every platform, that every given opportunity. He had the honesty, he showed the courage and cover in those difficult times when Kashmiri Pandits' plight would be only in the footnotes. And can you imagine the man who is supposedly charged with the murder of this Sarla Bhat? He was quoted by the media houses in Delhi, by institutions in Delhi. He was received as a chief guest. In one of the events, he was described as a future of India, as a youth icon of India. And we used to protest, we used to gate crash, enter the halls and disrupt the events. And we used to be hauled by the police, detained by the police. And this we used to suffer lathi charge. And I don't know, 36 years, Mr. Raghuvanshi documented it then. And no one in the state ever thought about providing
picking
justice.
it up as evidence. Yes. Kashmiri Pandits were lathi charged if they were protesting, and someone like a Yasin Malik was being received by members of the establishment or quoted in the press, and you know how times change as well. I have to add here about, before I take the final comments, before I forget, Manoj Raghuvanshi's footage, this is to Newstrack, to India Today archives. Little did I know I would be anchoring a bulletin on India Today, but when I was a student and doing my media studies, and then as a young journalist to research, Newstrack videos, India Today archive videos were my go-to to research on Kashmiri Pandits, because there was barely any research available in video. And so I appreciate the work that's been done by the whole team, Khushbu Mattu, I bring you in here, and I'll go to SP Ved as well. Closing comments. Khushbu, what do you think the government needs to do, government of the day? Because eventually it is about justice, rehabilitation. There are a lot of aspects that are missing. What can be done in true style? And do you have hope when your parents hear of this, when your family members hear of this? Do young Kashmiri Pandits feel that there is something they need to look forward to in the years to come?
Absolutely. There is a wave of positivity in Kashmiri Pandit youngsters, especially who are even younger than me, these 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds, they are going to Valley. They just went, Kashmiri Pandits went in large numbers 2 weeks ago. And I must say that the positivity should be met with every case to be closed, justifiably. The dark chapter needs to end so that, there is a accurate closure that we have, and we move on, because 35, 36 years is a long time for justice to have happened to the families of the sufferers. So it's an important point in history now for a closure, and for the history to be treated accurately, to be respected, the community to be respected ahead. The new generation wants all these cases to be closed justifiably, not just of rape and killings, but also of torture, kidnappings. There have been kidnappings and traumatic cases in each and every Kashmiri Pandit's family. I feel they can be opened, distress sales can be opened, there can be justice to the community at large. That is what should happen.
SP Ved, final comments from you as a police officer yourself. Do you think that it is also the role of the police that will be of utmost importance? We have seen changes in terms of peace returning, there's certain normalcy, but we all understand, those who are either reported in Kashmir or served in the Kashmir Valley, that there's always an undercurrent. And a little bit of lax attitude can have the emergence of the terror groups again. So what is it that needs to be done via the police, via the administration, to ensure that peace prevails in the valley?
I think multi-pronged strategy, which is being followed by Government of India and the state government, that needs to continue. We must ensure, even today, in spite of all parameters terrorism coming down, you have a certain amount of radicalization, and that is the danger which I see in the future. So we need to be very, very careful. Number one, the government must recognize this as a genocide, institute a commission of inquiry, and provide justice to Kashmiri Pandit community which has faced these. I think my last comment is the person like Bita Karate, your Raghuvanshi ji interview, the iconic interview, it said chilling, I think, chilling tales across the country and the world when his interview was taken. And a person like him continues to be roam free in spite of admitting that all 25
Correct.
Kashmiri Pandits he killed. That speaks, I think, about our criminal justice system and what we have achieved. I think we need to take corrective measures now.
All right. I appreciate all of you joining in, because we are not going to predict what should happen in this case, in the sense of Yasin Malik, who's already in jail, serving stringent sentence. I'll let the law take its own course. We have let it take its own course for 36 years. The community wants to now see how fast will be a justice, fast-track court, and giving the sentence in this case. I want to thank all of you for your views, for your perspective, and to be able to bring this evening a kind of understanding to know how a community, without resorting to violence, having suffered so much, has decided to
focus to the Ketan Agarwal murder probe, and we get you a big exclusive. The cab driver who drove Sia Goel and Ketan Agarwal and their family from Pune to Mumbai airport for their pre-wedding Bali trip has now recounted what he says happened during that journey. According to the driver, Sia was initially reluctant to board the cab, and her brother Sahil Goel persuaded her to get in. During a tea break on the Mumbai-Pune expressway, he claims that Sia asked him to open the boot of the car and took a bag from inside. After dropping the family at the Mumbai airport, the driver says he got calls from Sia's family that they left a passport in the cab. The driver claims he thoroughly searched the entire cab, even showed the vehicle over a video call, but could not find the missing passport. He also says that Sahil and Ketan personally checked the cab before leaving. The driver further claims that Sahil and Sia argued repeatedly during the journey, and that Sahil and Sia were arguing, and that the family's Bali trip was eventually cancelled because of the missing passport. The probe officials allege that Ketan's passport was deliberately removed by Sia and later destroyed as part of the conspiracy to avoid the Bali trip. That's the big update, and those are the big revelations that are being made by the cab driver.
वाजता पिकअप केलं त्यांना. मग पिकअप केल्यानंतर ते मुलगी गाडीमध्ये बसत नव्हती. त्याच्या मुलांनी त्याच्या भावाने तिला गाडीमध्ये बसवला. नंतर मी लगेज टाकत होतो. लगेज टाकल्यानंतर मी गेलो. मग दुसरं पिकअप मला लोड्यामधनं होतं रावेतनं. ते पिकअप केलं मी, आणि ते पिकअप केल्यानंतर मी फूड मॉलला आलो. फूड मॉलला आल्यानंतर ते चहा प्यायला थांब म्हणले मला गाडी. मी गाडी थांबवली. गाडी थांबवल्यानंतर मग 10 मिनिटाने रिया आली आणि मला म्हणली गाडी